Hello, I'm Dr. Tiffany Anderson, the Superintendent of Topeka Public Schools, here to congratulate all of our scholars on such an outstanding achievement. It is our mini graduation ceremony, the first ever that we've ever had.
Thank you guys so much for pushing me and believing in me and getting me to the achievements that I never saw possible for myself.
Whether you are a Charger or a Trojan or a Scott or a Hope Streeter or a Cap City student or Avondale West, collectively, you have shown that there is no challenge that you can't overcome.
Because I was like one of the first people in my family to graduate, get their diploma, and walk across the stage. So it's kind of more of an accomplishment to my family than it is to myself.
It's not one school that makes up Topeka or one student, but we all make up Topeka Public Schools. We pride ourselves on the diversity that we have within our district, and you make that up. We have students that are going straight to the military and start boot camp within the next week. We know that we have students that have already started college early. We have students that have already accepted jobs and are starting in those already.
I plan to work until August, and then I plan on going to a community college. Right now I'm leaning towards Allen Community College. I plan to do it online right now since of everything with Corona. And then I'm going to go for med school to hopefully be a RN.
I always start with students first. It's to engage, prepare, and inspire yourselves and people for a lifetime. So students, congratulations. Engage, prepare, and inspire others for a lifetime of excellence. Congratulations, scholars. Good evening. Several of you all probably saw that same 2-minute video for like 10 minutes. Goodness bless you. Well, we hope that that was a great video to be able to see for our next scholars. In the meantime, while you waited, I'm going to turn it over to our board president. Principals that are elementary that are on the line, you're getting an email from me right now. Hello there, principals. So look at your email while also joining the board meeting.
Let me just plug in my computer so I don't run out of juice, and I will start the meeting in just 2 seconds.
A sign of the pandemic, not running out of juice at a board meeting. All right, so as we wait, it looks like one of our staff members are in the space from Scott, I believe. And so we're excited. Oh my goodness. So, you know, this is a time for parents that are on the screen that we started something a couple of years ago. Well, actually, since we've been in Zoom in particular, that the pledge is done by a student. It really got kicked off by Dr. Gordon. We had her students do the pledge and people just loved it so much. After they did 10 or 15 pledges, we started inviting other students, and we only invite the students of our staff so that you get a chance to meet our staff and know that our staff brings their children, many of our staff, to Topeka Public Schools. All right, looks like Dr. Mickelson is all plugged in, and all elementary, you're not getting that email, but just some of you related to tomorrow's scheduling for vaccines. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Mickelson.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We'll call this meeting back to order and start with our Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could all rise, and who do we have? Who's helping us today?
And let's start off with having our principal introduce who's with us. Oh, we're all muted. So the student is muted and Miss Dr. Mejia is muted. So unmute them, please. All right, Dr. Mejia, real quickly, you want to share who's with us, and then she can introduce herself and her child.
Yes, good evening, board members, Dr. Anderson, and everybody who's here. I have the tremendous pleasure of introducing to you Finley Lucht, and she is a second grader at Scott. She's spunky, beautiful, smart, funny, and I cannot wait to see her do this honor. And she is the daughter of Mrs. Lucht, our amazing instructional coach.
All right, so the amazing Luck team will follow your lead for our student.
Go ahead.
All right, Finn, take it away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You are quite clear in your communication. I'm going to turn it over to our board members who may want to ask you a question. That's the best pledge I've ever heard all year.
I
Great
agree.
job.
She didn't stumble over indivisible. She knew all the words. She did great. Good job, Finley. You're a second grader at Scott, is that right? I think she's muted.
And as we make sure that you're unmuted, here's your certificate. You're going to be sent a certificate in the mail just congratulating you, and it says for your service at the board meeting. So we're going to turn it over to you. There was a question. Now, what grade are you in, and what's your favorite subject? Our board president was just asking you.
Well, I am in second grade. My favorite subject is probably math. I'm in gifted for that because I'm gifted in math.
I love the confidence you have, Finley. That's great. And being a mathematician will take you a long way.
Thank you.
And could you
Yes.
say the pledge in Spanish?
Thank you.
Not yet.
Not yet. Still working on it.
She can do the first part of it. She can do the first sentence of it.
Oh, I think we're losing your connection, but we did hear you, Ms. Lux.
Leer.
Okay, you're frozen, but I think we heard a little bit of that Spanish. Oh my goodness, so you were well on your way. We do want to mention that Ms. Lux has been with us for quite some
Thank
time.
you.
Ms. Lux is one of our K-State graduates, so it's great to see her in this role and to have your daughter with us. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mrs. Bowley seconds.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowley. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't hear any, so we're ready to vote. I think it's on board docs, or you can do it verbally if you prefer.
Bone break, aye.
Thank you. All votes are in. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mrs. Lister. Next on the agenda is school highlights, and we're honored to do this next little bit. I think Reverend Williams has a role in this, but we'll turn it over to Dr. Anderson.
All right, good afternoon again. As we prepare to start our school highlights, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gray to introduce our first school highlight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson and school board. Tonight, we're going to be introducing our Living the Dream award winners, as well as our scholarship winners. We have 13 for Topeka Public Schools. And our first individual that we want to highlight is Miss Kathy Foster. She was selected to be the recipient of the Vivian Scales Education Award. So with that, we're so excited for Miss Foster. So again,
as we prepare to highlight Ms. Foster, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Reverend Williams to tell a little bit about this award, say some comments, and then if you'd like to ask some questions of Ms. Foster, we'll turn it over to her. Reverend Williams?
Vivian Scales was one of the original plaintiffs of the Brown versus the Board of Education plaintiffs, and she was quoted as saying she wanted to do what was right. And so she was a great lady, and pleased to be awarding this year to Ms. Foster. Well deserved. And I will be hand delivering the actual awards next Monday to our honorees.
Again, congratulations, Ms. Foster. We're going to turn it over to our board to ask questions of Ms. Foster. So nothing better than be voted in by the community for an award representing character and doing what's right. It says a lot about her and the college prep. Any board members have any questions for Ms. Foster?
So I see Ms. Foster's online here. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mrs. Foster?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr.
Ms. Foster, what drives you to do the work that you do? All of the things that you do?
Good afternoon, evening, actually, everyone. And Mr. Munoz, I am a proud graduate of Washington University in St. Louis. And I had an academic advisor who told me in my face that I would never graduate from Washington University. I proved him wrong. I also had professors in my Black Studies program. So I have a dual major, and my professors in my Black Studies program taught us that it was our responsibility to give back to our community. And that stuck with me. I had no intentions of being an educator at all, and circumstances dictated otherwise. I refuse to accept anything less from any child, whether they are a product of poverty or whether it's because of their color. And both of those were stacked against me, and I was able to succeed. So every child that I meet is able to succeed. And that's what inspires me every day. I can still hear his voice and see his face every day.
Well, we're so lucky to have you. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Foster, you're one of my favorite teachers in Topeka Public Schools. I remember seeing you in the aisles of Dillon's before we were wearing masks.
Yes.
And just visiting with you briefly, and your spirit and determination to get the best out of your students is a wonderful characteristic that you have. And it's a gift, I think, that you're just dogged and you're not going to accept anything less than full effort. And so to receive this award is fitting for you, and congratulations. You have my congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mickelson. I appreciate. Thank you, everyone.
At this time, we're going to ask if Reverend Williams will share our next adult award winner for the Living the Dream.
Reverend Williams,
Okay. I'm there now. The next, we've got two youth at Topeka High School that are honorees. Kim Lair, who was our first senior of the month this year, school year, and also Krishayla Adams. She's the recipient of the Youth Award, and Kim is the recipient of our, trying to remember. Oh,
Elizabeth Ross Community Action Award.
Yeah, Community Action. I got so many awards I got to give out, I get them crossed up. When Mr. Lair appeared before the board back at the beginning of the school year, I was impressed by this young man to do what he does and the drive that he has. And also Miss Adams, I've known her since this past summer. Both leaders in their own right, and the future is bright. We got young leaders like them. And so, like I said, I'll be at Topeka High on Monday at 9 o'clock to give them their awards. The other recipient is the early college prep academy at Lowman Hill Elementary, and it's been the Pauline J. Barker School Award. A little bit about Pauline Barker. She was one of the original founders of Living the Dream, and she served as executive secretary for former Governor John Carlin. She really believed in the principles that Dr. King espoused, and really believed in the value of education. And so I'm honored again on behalf of Living the Dream to present these individuals with these awards. They're well deserving of them. And so we're in good hands in 501. They did Topeka Public Schools proud.
Reverend Williams, was Krishayla the young lady who won the speaking award?
For JAG, yes.
For JAG, yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking too. So we've seen both of the high school award winners.
Correct.
Previous board meetings in the last several months. So
it is correct. Dr. Gray.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Reverend Williams. At this time, we're going to just share the names of our scholars.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
can I tell them about the food drive, or is that gonna be?
Absolutely. She's also listed, I was about to say, in the Living the Dream Food Drive. That's the big piece, which is quite the competition. So that's the next award. And then the scholars that were also mentioned will all be on a slideshow that we'll continue to share. Reverend Williams, please do the honors of who the school is. That's a drum beat there.
And this is the drum beat, and if I get emotional in advance, I apologize. You know, this has been a very complicated year, and we thought about canceling the food drive, but there's a great need in this Topeka Shawnee County community for food. So me and Dr. Gray and Erica Hall, we got together and decided to go ahead and go with it. Last year, Quincy Elementary won the award, and I decided to go out and get a traveling plaque going forward because I want this to continue indefinitely. This year, even with the pandemic, if we had picked up 200 canned food items or food items, period, I'd have been happy. We got 3,556, I believe the total is. But what's really outstanding is a school that collected the most. McCarter Elementary, even with us being in remote, collected 3,388 food items. And they deserve more than a hand. And I'm going to be delivering the plaque on Monday, but I want to, if everybody can see, I don't know if everybody can see the plaque. I'll get a picture taken on Monday and put it out there on Facebook. But they're well deserving, and like I said, when Erica shared with me the totals, I about cried.
And I think we have McCarter with us. Ms. Cooney, are you with us? And can you say some words about how you were able to collect almost 4,000 items to donate? And then we're going to turn it over to board members to answer any questions. And again, for your certificate is here, but of course you have a traveling plaque coming your way. We're so proud of you and your students. Ms. Cooney?
Thank you so much. Also, congratulations to Tcalc. He is a former McCarter Mustang, and we miss him, and he is a terrific pick for that award. We have a competitive staff, and the kids were only back for about 2 weeks, but we dangled Rocco's donated a pizza for the award-winning class, and teachers got behind it, and there was some friendly competition among them, and I mean, cans were just flying in every single morning. So our gym was filled with cans. We are I was overjoyed, especially like Dr. Anderson said, and you said, Reverend Williams, during the pandemic, it just really warmed my heart that our families sent that many items in and that our kids got behind it. And it felt like just something normal when everything is abnormal. Although we've never had that big of a response before. So we're very, very proud of our students and staff and families, parents.
Ms. Cooney, where did you go to school?
Oh, I grew up in Salina, Kansas. So where'd
you get from college? What college?
I went to Emporia State. I got my master's from there.
Where'd you get your undergraduate? Emporia State?
No, I was in Salina at Kansas Wesleyan.
Okay. Okay.
He was trying to see if you were a K-Stater since
stuff in her office. That's why I wanted to point that out since Mr. Robbins got on me earlier.
So we're going to turn it over to the board for board members to ask any questions or make any comments for Ms. Cooney.
Just congratulations to you and your students and staff. I know your school is not the biggest one in the district, but to bring in that many more cans on a per capita basis is even that much more impressive. So thank you for what you've done for our community. Does anyone else have a comment for Ms. Cooney? I see Mrs. Frederick is on the line from the Early College Prep Academy at Lowman Hill, also an award recipient tonight.
Dr. Mickelson?
Yes, sir.
Even though I can't get the plaque, let me read what's on the plaque for the board. Mm-hmm. And everyone listening. It says, presented in recognition of collecting the most food items for the annual Living the Dream Incorporated Topeka Public Schools food drive in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it has my most favorite quote of his: life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And like I said, McCarty Elementary set the bar very high.
That's a great quote. So congratulations to you, Ms. Cooney, and your staff and students. So thank you for your support of our community.
Dr. Mickelson, while we have other awards, we do want to say that I see that Mrs. Frederick is with us this evening, being a new principal and having opened up the college prep. Reverend Williams, can you share why they received the award, what that stood for? And then if there's a question for Mrs. Frederick or a comment Ms. Frederick wants to make, this is a great time for that as well.
This is the first year for the early college prep academy. And we wanted to make sure that the community was aware of what's going on over there in Longman deal. And they're doing a great job over there as well. And it's the Pauline J. Barker School Award.
All right. And congratulations, Ms. Frederick. Any questions for Ms. Frederick? And Ms. Frederick, would you like to make just a comment as you're concluding your first year at the college prep? And I see you have your college prep jacket and attire and uniform on.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you so much to our staff. They have worked so hard to provide opportunities for college and career readiness for all of our scholars. And really, in honor of Dr. King's dream, our dream is just to instill a dream in our scholars for themselves and their future. And I just wanted to thank the entire staff for their efforts and everything they've been doing to implement the program this year.
Are there any questions from board members for Ms. Frederick before we go on to our next award recipient?
I do.
Go ahead, Mrs. Bowley.
I just wanted to thank Mrs. Cooney for instilling in her students the opportunity to give back to our community. That is so important. And right now, the food need in our community is really high. And so for you to be able to express that to your students, and they do so well, even though there was a pizza involved.
Well, you know what was really sweet is that the two classes were neck and neck. And that teacher that won, it was Miss Spencer's class, and she was bringing in crates of food herself. But what was so sweet is Rocco's delivered the pizza, but her class, and granted we're in micro classes now, so there was a lot of extra pizza, but they felt they really needed to share with Miss Gleason's class. So that warmed my heart as well, that they shared with the class that was right on their heels the whole time. So it was a good deal, and we're very happy to help out the closet, or the Topeka, what is it called that you guys give it to? It went all over, I think, didn't it?
Our food pantry at Quentin Heights and the Washington University student food pantry.
Yeah, I thought it went to a few different pantries, but we were very happy to help, especially during the pandemic.
Well, it's just such a wonderful lesson for young people to learn, to reach out to others that may not have quite as much. So it's just wonderful. And I also wanted to thank Reverend Williams for all the efforts he puts in. And we're so honored to have him on our board, and for him to promote this the way he does. It's just really wonderful. So thank you, Reverend Williams, for all the efforts that you put in. And I'm always so glad that you're rewarded with people in our school district that get the awards. So congratulations for all of you.
Well, I can't take credit for the food drive idea. Harriet Johnson, who is a retired 501 educator and administrator, this was her brainchild. I'm just the facilitator. But thank you.
We're glad to have you as our facilitator.
And we hope next year we can do it in person and celebrate at a dinner and a luncheon and all that kind of good stuff that Living the Dream puts on. So we have some student award winners too, right?
We have several student award winners. Those are the names that are on the list. We generally at this meeting make sure that we acknowledge all of our staff award winners. Several of these students were just here last board meeting and the reading before, both Grishayla and Kelm. And so that list will be on our website and on our TV station. They've also been acknowledged by their administrators. and have received something in the mail. So again, we congratulate all of our students. That concludes our Living the Dream section, and we're going to go on to our next several awards. This is normally the piece that I do, but Dr. Gray, over these next couple of minutes, that bow tie looks so great as he's continuing to lead and develop in his role. I've been turning it over to him this evening. So Dr. Gray, you want to go ahead and move right on into our next award, sir, and then our proclamations.
Okay, at this time, I'm looking, Dr. Anderson, it looks like we have the award winners, Living the Dream. I'm looking for the next award.
I'm going to go right on into our proclamation. This career technical education, I put Dr. Gray on the spot. And so as he looks down that list for the next several, with that proclamation, we have Dr. Morrell here this evening. As you all know, he is the administrator over Tcalc. He's also on boards and is recognized as a statewide leader. Dr. Morrell can share that with us. And then he's going to read the proclamation. It's kind of tiny print. So Dr. Morrell, normally the first 2 or 3 sentences and the last 2 or 3 sentences. And any comments, sir, that you'd like to say as an update about career technical education and the exciting additions this year, sir?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Anderson and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to read part of the proclamation for National Career and Technical Education Month. Whereas February 2021 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas Career and Technical Education offers students opportunities for academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. And whereas Career and Technical Education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework, as well as the pursuit of established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas ensuring that employers have access to qualified workforce is a crucial step in ensuring productivity among the business and industry communities, as well as continued American economic growth and global competitiveness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Unified School District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim February 2021 as National Career and Technical Education Month. I just want to say it's really an honor to work with the career and technical education teachers that we have in the district, and to have some great support from the board and also from the administrators in the schools and throughout the district. This year, as you've probably heard, we had a great opportunity with Stormont Vale Health to have students actually have paid internships. So they are working now, and that was the first group that started on January 11th. We had over 30 students that applied for those internships, and 12 passed the pre-employment screening and were employed. Starting on March the 8th, we'll have an additional students actually working as interns, and we had 29 students that applied this past week. So we're anxious to hear next week how many of them were accepted. But that's just one of the many things that's happening. We have a great opportunity here at Tcalc to increase our enrollment for next year. This past week, we did some recruiting based on a video that was produced by one of our Tcalc students. I don't know if we have 2 minutes, Dr. Anderson, to show that or not, but it's really a great production by one of our senior students here at Tcalc.
I think we've got minutes, or 2 minutes if we've got that queued up. I don't know if we're ready for that.
Mr. Gowan should have that.
If Mr. Gowan, you already have that ready to go, you can go ahead and run that video at this time.
I don't have that one ready to go, but if you give me a minute, I will.
Well, and with that video, perhaps one of the items with that video, we certainly will have it on our TV station as well and on our main website. We'll give it just a moment and turn it over to the board to ask a question or two of Dr. Morrell.
So Dr. Morrell, we also have had some students shadow at TPD, right?
That is correct. They are 2 seniors who are completing the law and public safety pathway here at Tcalc. So as they become seniors, they have the opportunity to serve as interns with the Topeka Police Department. So they are working in the training unit for Topeka Police Department. And I just checked today, and they have done a wonderful job, and they're really excited about it. So we're looking forward to their reflection this week as they come back to talk to us about what they're doing.
That's great news.
Yeah, Mr. Reynolds, this is Dr. Bomberg. What do the interns at the hospital do? What duties do they perform?
The interns are rotating among 8 different departments right now. So they're getting experience, in a number of departments and working with a mentor in each department. So they spend about 2, sometimes 3 weeks in each department as they move along. We've also worked with the HR department of Stormont Vale so that the students will be maintaining an internship journal and also preparing reflections every couple of weeks to share with us and their colleagues.
Dr. Morrell, I think that's really important, those internships at the hospitals in the area of health. I think that's an area where so many opportunities exist. And oftentimes when we think of health, we think of doctor or nurse, and there's so much in there in terms. And so I really think that's great what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Dr. Morrell doesn't often highlight himself when he focuses on his students and staff, but Dr. Morrell, this year you were placed on a board. Can you share what board you're now serving on so we know where we have representation, and then we'll start the video.
So I'm on the board for the Kansas Association of Career and Technical Education and also serve as the president of the statewide group, which is the Kansas Leaders of Career and Technical Education.
And congratulations on that, Dr. Morrell. It's wonderful to have your leadership. We're going to start this video right at 2 minutes. We're going to stop the video. I think it's 1 minute and 54 seconds.
Come to Tcalc. Come find your future. Come solve real-world problems with tools used by real professionals. Come design, build, and construct. Come practice industry food safety, commercial cooking, and profitable restauranteering. Come study large and small animals, explore genetics, and evaluate the process of animal reproduction. Come program, design prototypes, and test machines. Come code, animate, and create video productions. Come study body mechanisms, evaluate sports injuries, and develop rehabilitation programs. Come research crime scene investigation, law enforcement procedure, and constitutional rights. Come learn to educate, inspire, and improve a student's life. Come discover new medical innovations, engage in solving medical mysteries, and investigate DNA breakthroughs using the latest laboratory techniques. Come to earn certifications that will lead to a career. Come belong to student organizations to improve your leadership skills, soft skills, and receive recognition for your accomplishments. Come be a leader. Come find your future. Come to Tcalc.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Morrell, for insisting for us to show that video. I'm so glad that we did, sir. And thank you for all that you're doing for career technical education. He will be presenting again in October, right around the time we get the credentialing report, so we can see how many new industry credentials that we have in place. Are there any final comments, Dr. Morrell?
No, just thank you, sir, for your support, members of the board and Dr. Anderson, and we will make Unit 501 really proud because we have some good things coming along this year.
Hi, Dr. Morrell. This is Melanie Stewart Campbell. That was a great video.
Thank you. That was produced by one of our students.
Even better, even better. So I'm curious, can you speak a bit about how we get the word out to, like, who sees this video? Like, is it on television programs, or how do we get the word out?
So it's actually on Facebook, on the district Facebook page. And we have been using it to recruit students this year. We just started this week. And so we have already touched over 200 students, sophomores at both Highland Park and Topeka High School. And next week we'll be taking the video to Topeka West. So we'll use it throughout our recruitment process, but it's also word of mouth with our students. They're our best supporters and also our best recruiters.
Yes. Wonderful. Okay, follow up to that. So I'm thinking of students outside of TPS who might be like, I think I'm going to transfer over to TPS.
So we also have some students outside of the district right now. So they help us to do that as well. And then we get with their counselors My associate principal, Jessica Johnston, does a good job of working with not only our counselors in the district, but counselors outside of the district. So we get the word out that way as well.
Great, thank you. Good
You're
job.
welcome.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Morrell? I don't see any. Just one last comment. Dr. Morrell hosted a group, myself and some colleagues from my employer last Friday, and we're looking to see if we can foster some internships where I work as well. So we're hopeful that that will come to fruition, but it's a very impressive program that you've put together. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
I should note before we leave off of this that I don't recognize all of the names of our Student Living the Dream Award winners, but I do recognize a couple that are children of our teachers. So I know Aubrey Zimmerman's dad teaches biology at Topeka High, and Zoe Carroll's dad is a administrator at Topeka West. And I don't know if her mom still is in the district or not. She might be. I know she used to be. If Mrs. Morrissey would nod her head yes or no, I would know that. But I know she was there when my daughter was in high school.
She's there.
Okay.
Miss Carroll is at Topeka High.
Well, I don't know the rest of the names there, but I do know that some of those recipients are children of our staff. So extra congratulations to them and their families. I think that concludes school highlights, right?
Now, Scott, this Bonebrick, what do the students receive? Laurel and Hearty handshake or what? A plaque?
Reverend Williams?
A $1,000 scholarship.
Now that's great.
Over the 35 years that we've been in existence, we've awarded close to anywhere between $500,000 and $750,000 worth of scholarships. So.
Impressive.
Yeah.
That concludes our highlights, and we thank you all this morning. My goodness, I'm ready to do it all over again. Thank you all for attending, and congratulations to all of our award recipients. I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Mickelson.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I'm just confirming with Mrs. Lister that we still don't have any public communications that have been submitted.
Correct.
Okay, so next we'll entertain a motion to dispose of business by consent.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. We have a motion.
This is Bonebrick. I had one question on the disposal of the medical waste. We're spending almost $19,000 for that, and I can't imagine there's a whole lot of medical waste.
So what we'll do is entertain or get a second on the motion and then have a chance for discussion. So if there's a second on this motion.
A second. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. So now there's discussion. So Dr. Bonebrick's question about medical waste. I'm assuming I know from my own place of employment, we have to autoclave a lot of medical waste, and so there's some costs associated there, but I don't know what our school nurses.
You're supposed to be sharps and syringes or something. I can't imagine we've got that many at each of these schools.
I would suggest, as you've pulled that, if I may, Dr. Mickelson, speak to that item.
Okay.
Unless Mr. Robbins would like something different, I would propose that since Ms. Botter is not on, I don't believe at this particular meeting, that we can pull that for this particular meeting. And then Mr. Robbins, would you like for us to just bring that back at the next meeting? That way Ms. Botter can talk about what kinds of things that entails, and any cost related matters can be addressed at that time. Mr. Robbins, would you prefer to keep that on for this time?
No, it'd be fine to go ahead and pull Dr. Anderson. We can move it to the next board meeting so we'd have a chance to address Dr. Bonebrick's question.
All right.
I'd like to see more scholarships given.
So we have a motion and a second. I may need help with proper procedure here, but so With the board's, I guess we'll have a motion to remove 14.5 medical waste disposal service from the business.
Can offer a substitute motion.
Yes, so
Yeah, I think we have to vote on this motion unless there's an amendment to the motion.
Right, there can be an amendment to the motion. If the person who originally made the motion is agreeable to the amendment, we can move forward once the amendment is made.
I have no problem.
So Reverend Williams, you made the original motion.
Yeah, I have no problem.
So we can amend the original motion to
exclude or omit, delete
14.5.
14.5.
So do we need a second on the amendment, Ms. Cope?
Yeah, go ahead and do a second on that, and then we can move forward.
So is there anyone who wants to second Reverend Williams' amendment to the original motion?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Boley. Any more discussion on the motion? I don't see any, so we're ready to vote, Mrs. Lister.
The vote is open.
While we're waiting for Mrs. Lister to tally the votes, just want to acknowledge First United Methodist Church for their donation to State Street Elementary School, and then Western Hills Church for a generous donation to Hope Street Academy, and then the First Baptist Church also made a generous donation to Hope Street Academy. So we thank those three local churches for their support of our schools.
Dr. Bonebrake, I need a vocal voice, a yay or a nay.
Yay.
Thank you.
I was muted.
Sorry. Motion carries 6 aye and 1 nay.
Thank you, Mrs. Lister. Next on the agenda is Superintendent's report.
Thank you. At this time, before we jump into our main report, which is the awesome Miss Barker sharing a little bit about the Historical Society. Before we jump into that, we do want to mention that the athletic update was sent forward. We do know that at this point, the Shawnee County scorecard is still in orange. It moved from 13, I believe, down to 12. Mr. Kathy is on the line with us, and he's here to answer any questions. We have some new coaches as a general update that's added. We also have Ms. Morrissey on the line as well. Last meeting, we shared previously that we received a request from students, and I think since then, maybe some parents as well, regarding inquiring about masks. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Morrissey to share her request in that regard, and then they both stand to answer any questions if you have them. Mr. Kathy, and when Ms. Morrissey's done, we'll also be sharing that the wrestling season is over for students as it relates to the last official in-school season, but sub-states are coming up, so he will kind of share a little bit about that. Ms. Morrissey, do you want to start?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Dr. Nicholson, Reverend Williams, members of the board, it's a privilege to speak tonight. I first owe you an apology. A grandchild talked to me right when you asked the question. Yes, Miss Carroll works for me, and Riley Atkinson's mother also works for us as well. I've watched the board wrestle for months with the issue with masks. I know it has been a challenge, and I've respected and admired the fact that you have kept the utmost safety of not only our athletes and our staff, but also of our community at the forefront of your decision making. I'm here tonight just to ask one more time if we can allow our athletes to remove their masks only on the floor. They will still wear them on the buses, in the locker rooms, in the hallways, on the bench, all of the rest of the time. And I would point to a couple of factors. One, Dr. Anderson already shared, the scorecard is reducing. We have dropped way down. We are getting close to the yellow. I know there's a difference between indoor and outdoor, but we've removed those masks before when we were this low for our athletes while they're in competition. Basketball ends next week in terms of the regular season, and our students will be starting their postseason play. I know many of your hearts went out to our girls, but they're not the only ones. We have several teams this year that in the postseason have an opportunity to pursue state championships, that ultimate goal in many of our sports. And I would ask that we could go with the Shawnee County recommendation. And 2 weeks ago, they determined that all athletics events could begin again in the county. And at almost 60 years of age, and I still play periodically, I would be allowed to go into any of the gyms in our community, and I could play on the floor without my mask on as well. I know I'd shared with one of you previously, my son works at Mayo Clinic, and Rochester has had them in their masks. I just found out today that they've also petitioned, and they're going to let their athletes not wear them on the court. And part of that is because with the heavy breathing, the masks really are maybe not as beneficial as they originally thought. So in short, I would just ask if we might reconsider letting them on the floor in the postseason, which starts in another week. So if we went one more week, we might even be in the yellow. But to let us play postseason, pursue those state championships without the masks on the floor, I don't want there to be one thing, because one turnover can be the difference for a team at the end of the year.
Thank you, Ms. Morrissey. We're going to just ask if the board allows for Mr. Cathy to just share the quick update on where we are as it relates to being in 12 on the scorecard. And there was a question earlier about wrestling, I guess a couple of weeks ago. And so previously you shared until the scorecard was under 13. So Mr. Cathy will address that question at this time and then turn it over to you if there are questions for Ms. Morrissey or Mr. Cathy.
I just wanted to update the board that we have reached the point in the wrestling season which it's essentially concluded, with regional locations being assigned and individuals have been seated to their qualifying weight classes for postseason competition. So it will not be possible for any of our athletes to participate in wrestling this year.
With those general updates, Dr. Gray has the scorecard to just show you so you know what the school district scorecard is and the county. And then we're going to proceed with entertaining questions now for either one of them, given you have all the other updates in general regarding athletics, as you do every week. Dr. Gray or Mr. Gowan, is there a scorecard to show, Mr. Gowan?
Yes, as we're pulling up the scorecard, just to make sure that everyone is informed. Last week, we were at a 14 for the Shawnee County transmission scorecard. And this week, we're proud to announce that we went from a 14 to a 12. And so we're very excited about what's happening in our county. And also we're seeing similar numbers in our school. Last week, we were in the green, and also we're in the low and the green in our schools. So again, as you see here, we have a 12. Last week, that was 14, and the week before that, it was 16. So again, Shawnee County is doing some tremendous work in terms of decreasing the spread. So we're excited about that. As we move to our district scorecard, if you can pull that up, Mr. Gowan. Again, we're seeing a similar trend. We have decreased in the number of staff and students. Last week, we had 13 students and 7 staff. This week, we have 10 students and 5 staff. And so we have continued in the low as we were last week. So again, great job to all the families out there that are doing what it takes to decrease the spread.
I turn it over to the board for any questions on the athletic update, and then I'll give an update on under Soup's report about vaccines, and then I'll turn it over to the main presentation for this evening.
Are there any questions for Mr. Cathy or Mrs. Morrissey? We have
Go
ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you. So thank you, Ms. Morrissey and Mr. Cathy, for your updates. And Ms. Morrissey, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're asking that our basketball players don't wear masks while on the court?
Yes, that's it. Yes, just on the court, they would wear it the rest of the time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And just in postseason play, that would be one more week away, but in postseason play.
Okay, so starting in 1 week. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have any literature, scientific data that suggests that we shouldn't wear masks, or that they're ineffective due to heavy breathing or things like that?
Anything I can push and share now, my son may. He's in the other room. He shared that with me just a while ago, that they're petitioning here to do that. And you and I talked about previously, I thought, well, they're still burning in Minnesota. Maybe there's something to it. I can ask that.
It is Rochester, Minnesota, home of the Mayo
Yes,
Clinic.
it is. Yes, it is.
It made me feel better for our stance, because I still don't see any evidence that suggests I mean, as I sympathize with your desire, and I would hate for a mask to come and cause our student athletes not to be successful.
Absolutely.
I would hate it even more if disease transmitted as a result of not wearing a mask.
I agree.
I watched our kids play, your girls play Washburn Rural. I watched the Topeka West boys play. I think they beat Washburn Rural this past week, and I was impressed with their ability to keep their masks on, especially the girls. It was, I wasn't in person, but it seemed almost invisible in their commitment to keep their masks on and stay safe. And it disappointed me, truthfully, that the opponent didn't wear their mask. And I realized they're allowed to do whatever they want to do, but it didn't seem, in the spirit of fair competition, fair. And it just, truthfully, I was angry, and so it made our victories that much more satisfying personally, even though I wasn't on the court.
I understand that.
But I am struggling with, every piece of evidence that I've heard or from reputable scientists suggests people should be wearing masks. And so I struggle with that. I defer to the consensus of the board, but that's where I'm at right now.
So Dr. Mickelson, may I add the medical point of view? I'm sure Dr. Bonebreak would do that too. I sent around a copy of what happened with a very large wrestling meet in Florida, which resulted in deaths from COVID. It was a cluster from that meet that resulted in deaths of people. And that's obvious. But the unobvious thing is, our youngsters can be asymptomatic carriers, and we don't know if they've spread the disease to elders. We don't know. Nobody knows. And that's the only problem. I've worn masks for 14 hours at a time during surgeries and never hardly even noticed it. I don't like to wear masks, but there is protection. The studies show there is, if you double mask, it's over 90% protection to the individual. So, I just feel like we're doing the best we can for our kids. I'd love for them to go into competition and play even. I'm very disappointed with Keisha. I'm very disappointed with, because they're not following the science. And we should be following the science. That's exactly what we should be doing. And if there were science that said asymptomatic carriers on the court who were breathing heavy, and somebody was playing defense and they were in that space for 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and still didn't spread the virus, I'd go with that. But there isn't evidence either way with that. So I would have to, and I'll certainly go with what the board says, but I don't think it's a disadvantage wearing a mask. I think they can play just as great with a mask as without a mask. So
if I may only say, I've watched a couple of turnovers because a mask falls, a kid tries to grab it. If you watched our Washburn Rural game, one play made the difference. One play makes the difference. So if it makes you feel better, if we wait till postseason, it's a 1 week, they play one weekend and the next, it's spring break during that week. I would imagine my kids would stay home and go remote for a week or so if that made you feel better. I know their families have already said en masse to me that they know the risk they're taking as parents. If that helps, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Let them play that last week of season. It's be about a week and 2 days. And that's assuming they make it all the way to the championship. I think they would be willing to do remote and take the 10 days just to be safe, to protect others, if that was your wish. And if not, you've watched them. They've done it anyway, regardless of the fact they might want them off. I want you all to know they will do what you ask. They have, and they have not complained.
Yeah, like Dr. Mickelson, I watched some of the game and I saw our players masked and the opponent not masked. And it was really frustrating. It's here we are, looking out for them, but that courtesy wasn't returned. So that bothered me. I like to think, and the Miss Morrissey, Mr. Kathy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, that such a fast-paced game as basketball, and it's not wrestling where they're all over each other. I mean, I like to think that transmission is unlikely considering how fast-paced it is. So
it is medium risk. Wrestling is high risk. It's why we have not done it. And I completely understand in 9 minutes on a mat, 3 minute, I think that's what it still is. I'm not as familiar with wrestling. We understood the massive risk there because of how close they are. So I cannot tell you, Ms. Stewart-Campbell, that there's no risk ever. We don't know, as Dr. Morrison already shared, we don't know a lot about it. I get that. But I can also tell you, we haven't had teams in isolation or in quarantine across the state unless they were tied to a party or something they did away from the court. There's no zero guarantee, but it doesn't appear that as a medium risk sport just on the court that it's as likely. But there's never a guarantee.
Right. So my son, he was playing in a league, and then we took him out because COVID, but the league continued. And so I've been following it, like, how are they doing? And so my good friend, her son plays, and they don't wear masks on the court. And my family said no to our son playing, but I've followed this story, and according to her, there hasn't been any incidents that they know of, and the boys they're not wearing masks on the court. I wish they all were, but they're not. Nobody is on the court. They do as soon as they leave the court. So Ms. Morrissey, I would reluctantly, but I would go along with your recommendation.
As Dr. Morrison said, young individuals tend not to have symptoms from COVID. I would be much more reassured if we had some testing being done. And testing is free and it's theoretically readily available. So I would go along with no masks if we can all test negative before the tournament.
And the problem for that has been cost. I will tell you, we've had families and students. Our families and our students have been amazingly cautious. They've kept their kids away if there's even extended family with a symptom, let alone someone who's positive. I do believe that has contributed because the families are very careful, Dr. Bonebreak. So we are using the testing, not mass across the board because it costs every single time, but it certainly is available. And our coaches have done. Our coaches, we don't have coaches who have gotten it. I think that tells you something about what they're doing and how they're doing, because they're keeping, their masks on and staying distance, but they're around our athletes all the time too. So as I said, no guarantee.
So could you investigate if Shawnee County could do testing for our student athletes prior to the state tournament and get results back quickly?
We can check, absolutely. I don't know. My concern then becomes cost and whether we can mandate it or not and pay for it or not. I don't know. Those questions come to mind, but we can certainly ask those questions.
It's worth asking that question because I think then we might be more comfortable maybe,
It protects others from us, but there is still no guarantee the other direction. And, they're not masked and they're not going to be, but we can certainly ask that question.
Right. So we think the masks are more protective for the other person as opposed to us. So my understanding was Shawnee County was doing testing for free. I don't know if that has expired or not, but
and I'll ask Mr. Robbins in terms of, or Dr. Gray. Previously, they were at several sites. I know, Dr. Gray, you've been given the COVID communicator, or Mr. Robbins. Are those sites still open, those free sites for COVID testing?
Yes, Dr. Anderson, those sites are still open, but I know that a few of the sites have been closed this week due to inclement weather, but yes, the sites are still in operation.
Thank you.
So Dr. Bonebreak, would you be willing, if they had a negative test prior to the state tournament, to allow our teams that advance to the state tournament or postseason play to not wear a mask during competition?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mike, what do you think?
If we had negative tests and they were done 2 days before, the kids were told they have to hibernate those 2 days before they go, and then they be virtual for the 2 weeks afterwards, I'd say okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Reverend Williams, Mr. Munoz, Mrs. Boley, any?
I would agree.
I still have some concerns. Our students would be testing negative, but the teams that we play are not being tested. Is that something that can be put into post-play where other teams are being tested as well?
No, it cannot. Right now, what they have supported, the Activity Association has said, is that there will be the local control. So as a host school, any game that Topeka Public Schools hosts, we can make the other team wear a mask when they play us at our site. And then if we are on either a neutral site or we are the visiting team, then we would fall under their rules as to the requirements of masks. But as per what we have told our athletes currently, is they have to wear a mask at all times, regardless of whether we're home or away.
Where are the sub-state games scheduled to be played, Mr. Cathy?
Right now, the first 3 rounds are to the higher seeded team. Currently, as of today, Topeka High girls are set ranked first. So they would host the first 3 rounds and then would only be out for the last 2 games, which would be the game to get into the championship and then the semifinals and the championship game. That'd be at a neutral site in Wichita. Topeka West boys are currently ranked number 1 in their region or in their sub-state. So we would be in a similar boat as to Topeka West girls. Highland Park is currently ranked 2nd, and their boys are ranked 2nd in their sub-state, which would mean that they are going to be hosting the first round. And then if they were the higher seed, they would continue to host the 2nd and 3rd round. Otherwise, they would be the visiting team.
Could it be, it could be a potential advantage if we are hosting these games where we require everyone to wear a mask?
Yes. So the games that we would be hosting, if we were to continue to be wearing masks, and we could tell the other school that they would. Again, the challenge that we have been faced with is when the teams are visiting us, they don't always necessarily, they don't necessarily are not as diligent in making sure their masks are up in the proper position as our athletes do, as we have worked with them throughout the school year and the season working on.
So if the board, as you've had a discussion on this, it seems like multiple members have kind of given direction about this piece. Ms. Boley, I believe Ms. Boley and Mr. Munoz, were there other comments in terms of consensus? I think we've heard from several members, but you two were the final ones. We have a full report that's after this.
I'm, I can't imagine what they're going through, wearing a mask and playing an actual basketball game. And I shovel my snow out front with the mask on, and it's tough. So I really do hear, and I'm grateful that they've come to us and asked us for to make this change. But I take my responsibility for safety for students and for staff and everybody. That's foremost. Let us get through this time. And so I'm going to defer to safe on the side of safety and science, and just make sure that we try and look after our kids, and they'll give it their best shot. And we know they would, and they've done an outstanding job thus far.
So I have a question before we, the sub-state, so there'll be 2 weeks, is that correct? Rebecca?
Yes, they'll play a weekend and then the following weekend. So it's just a little over a
Sub-state
week.
state.
Yes.
Sub-state
So
state.
the
So
substate would be week one.
here would be my ideal, okay, for them not to wear masks. And that would be a negative test prior. I can't guarantee the other team's gonna not give it to us. But I can say that if they got a negative test 2 days prior to going to state, you know, that's as good as we can do. And then isolate for 2 weeks. And I think that's as good as we can do and allow them not to wear masks.
So it
So
sounds
what
like
I'm hearing,
the
I'm sorry, Dr.
consensus,
Anderson.
I was going to say the same thing, so make sure you
Yeah.
understand. And so the consensus thus far from the majority of the board is that either wear the mask or testing prior to 2 days prior to the game, the state game, and then to go remote following the game for 2 weeks, then you would be in support. The majority of the board, that seems to be the consensus. Did I say that properly, Dr. Mickelson? Look, I see a head nod. So Ms. Morrissey, you have direction, either wear the mask and continue as you've been doing, or to change direction. That would be the way that the board would support that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you both. We have an update on vaccines, and I know Ms. Barker has been ready, so I want to turn it over to her. If I can just give you the small update. Then we have some leaders in our, well, we have lots of leaders in Topeka Public Schools, but we have some vaccine leaders. One of them even made stickers, like I voted, said I been vaccinated. And so we're going to turn it over to them as some people are, as some people, how great they pulled up that picture. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hoffman and Mr. Hare if they want to just make a comment before they head on. Remember, it's parent conferences, so Mr. Kathy's going to head on and the others are going to head on as well, so they can get back to the last 30 minutes of that. But Mrs. Hoffman and Mr. Hare, do you want to make any comments for those that are wondering about vaccines or nervous about vaccines and just how the process went? We have such amazing partners with Stormont and the health department. Ms. Hoffman, do you want to start?
Sure. First, I just want to thank the district for their efforts in helping to vaccinate our staff. That was exciting news for me to share with them. It was very well received. I know Mr. Hare and I both feel very fortunate to be the first couple of schools, first couple of schools to get to go. It went very smoothly. I had a total of 54 staff who were vaccinated, and then a handful that had already been vaccinated, and then another handful that declined. So we are ready for our second dose, which will occur during spring break. But it went very smoothly. Stormont Vale, we were in and out of there under an hour. We just made it a school spirit day, and everyone wore our school shirts. We had stickers made that says "This Falcon is vaccinated," and we had lollipops for staff when they returned to the building. So we just tried to make it as fun as we could. And again, thank you for the efforts. You have no idea some of the weight that has come off our staff's shoulders, knowing that we are one step further protected from the virus and can better serve our students.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. And Mr. Hare, you had a quick item to share about, and then we'll open it up to the board if there are any questions. And I'll share with you what's coming up for vaccines, and they went on Monday.
You bet. I just echo what Ms. Hoffman said. We were pretty thrilled, and you, I mean, probably everyone there who didn't know who we were probably thought we were just some crazy people, because we were in our school shirts. Staff was, in such great moods. They had a kick in their step. They were just celebrating, and they were, just hollering at each other across, and it was just wonderful. I think staff is pretty excited to help keep our kids safe and to just maybe one step closer to just a little bit of normalcy for our community. So it was great. And on Monday night, you're going to see a little thing on KSNT TV with one of my teachers featured, Amy Watson, and myself, just talking about the positives of the vaccine. So check that out.
All right. And the special thing on Mr. Harrison, his mother-in-law, his mama vaccinated him. She's a retired nurse volunteering for the vaccination. So we thank the whole Hare family and his mother-in-law for their dedication and commitment. So we had almost 300 people almost on Monday that were vaccinated. We actually vaccinated entire school buildings. And so many of our middle schools are done. Highland Park High is completed. And the majority of the staff at these individual places have been participating. We additionally have, we focused on secondary in that space because we were planning for elementary to be Thursday. We know with the weather, all of that was delayed. But due to the generosity and kindness of Stormont, they have opened up some time for Friday as their shipment just came in today. And so this afternoon, we were alerted that Friday we will have more individuals that will be vaccinated. Initially it was approximately 300. We received another notice this evening, just before the board meeting. It does appear that an additional 250 on top of that will be have the opportunity to be vaccinated. We're targeting elementary on Friday because next week when we return back in session, those will be difficult places to cover staff as they're vaccinated, not knowing the days next week. We do anticipate next week, however, may be another opportunity. And it is quite possible that Wednesday, which is a remote day, for secondary, that might be the day in which the rest of our secondary will be able to go. The elementary schools have all made schedules, so even if it wasn't on Friday, they already have a coverage plan in place that they are ready to roll out next week for those elementary schools that are called sometime next week. So we just thank our staff for the patience and the partnership that's allowed for this to happen with Stormont and the health department. That's the vaccine update. Any other questions on vaccines related to that? And they're going to head back to their parent conferences.
I have a question. I would like to know, since not everyone will be vaccinated when we start next week, what are all the protocols we have in place for our students and staff as they return?
Well, the protocols that we've had prior to are still in place. And I see Ms. Hoffman was about to start. Nothing better than hearing from boots on the ground. Ms. Hoffman, do you want to answer that question about what protocols are in place?
Sure, we will be using our same protocols we had even prior to vaccination. So temperature taking as you enter the building for all students and staff and visitors. Masks are required. Students will have their sneeze guards, sanitizing hands when they enter classrooms in any space. Our custodial staff will continue to do their cleaning in between classes and high touch areas like they have been, using the UV lights at night and our misters in our larger spaces. So all those same protocols will continue, the social distancing and all of that we reviewed with staff just last week when we thought we were coming back this week. And then I know, and I'm sure Mr. Hare has, as many principals, just did a screencastify reminder video. So teachers will be ready to play that first thing in the morning on Tuesday or on Monday for students, just to give them the reminders again of what our expectations are. We had no problems coming back the last time. I don't anticipate any issues. Our students have been stellar with this. I mean, they really have.
No better comment than to give assurance to families. I'm so glad you asked that question, Ms. Boley. So even after vaccination, we're still following the same protocols, whether you were vaccinated or not. That doesn't change, and that's really the recommendation which we're following from the county health department. With that, we know they have about 15-20 minutes left of parent conferences. We're going to free you all up for that. Those are all of my updates. At this time, we have a presentation from Ms. Barker, and she'll share a little bit about what she's here to talk about, and I'll turn it over to the board from there. Thank you, Ms. Hoffman and Mr. Hare.
Mrs. Barker, you want to share your exciting news about the things that are going on at Topeka High?
Well, actually, Dr. Anderson, Dr. Mickelson, thank you for this opportunity to provide an update on the planning of the 150th celebrating of Topeka High, 150th anniversary of Topeka High. And I'm going to turn this over to our co-chairman, Shayla Kincaid, if she can be unmuted. And she is the co-chairman of this committee. That's a subcommittee of the Topeka High School Historical Society. And she, along with Nikki Ramirez Jennings, are leading this this venture into a fun year of celebrating the 150th of your wonderful high school.
Okay. So again, as Joan said, I'm Nikki Ramirez Jennings, and I serve as one of the chairs, and Shayla is also on here with us. Unfortunately, the pandemic has halted some of our progress temporarily, but like many of us know, being in the midst of a pandemic has also given us the opportunity to get creative as we pivot, so that while it has slowed some things down, it hasn't really stunted what we're doing. So we're really moving. And so I'm just going to share a couple of things with you guys this evening as far as progress that's happened on behalf of this initiative. And so thank you for sharing your time with us and allowing us to give you guys a little glimpse of the things that are going on. So we've been busy getting the word out. A Sunday afternoon Zoom presentation was provided to the Shawnee County Historical Society. They met with Zoom with the Greater Topeka Partnership Senior Council. The 150th Marketing Committee is updating a PowerPoint presentation that will be shared with other community organizations. So if you belong to an organization that would like to be part of this presentation, please contact Joan and she can help you get a time set up. They've also been raising funds, and fun update, fun fact, a generous benefactor donated $5,000 today. So now we've raised not over $40,000. We've also sponsored a couple of fundraisers, but mostly these funds have come from graduates and THS supporters who love Topeka High. So we've had an abundance of wraparound support. Corporate sponsors will be contacted this month. We have been recording oral histories from graduates, parents of grads, and families. Our current students and staff are already involved. There's a 150th of Topeka High Club, sponsored by Denise Hefner. They have placed 150th emblems around the building. They are featuring the THS Hall of Fame inductees and strategic places in the building. Sean O'Callahan, THS art instructor, has created a Trojan model. It will become a 4-foot fiberglass statuette that students will paint for public display. And 2 statues have sponsors. A photo of the statuette and model will be sent out so that you guys can see it, or you guys should be able to see that. There it is. We are compiling a database of past, present, and current THS faculty and staff. And for the big hurrah, something that me and Shayla are really excited about as the class of 1995, hoy hoy mighty Troy, we're going to be leading the charge with homecoming for the 150th. So we got a lot of neat things planned. So stay tuned. It's kind of hard to kind of discern what we're going to do in the midst of all of this, but we're confident we're going to be able to pull it off and we're all going to have a good time. Does anyone have any questions?
So just so I'm clear, when is the 150 years ago this year, or is it?
Yes, this year, 2021.
Okay.
But we have had to move many of our scheduled activities and events that we had planned that would have started this January. We're just going to continue our celebration on into 2022 because we feel like the 150th birthday of Topeka High needs a whole year of celebration.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about Topeka High graduates is their pride in their school. And the 3 of you exemplify that. So thank you for your service and making this great for Topeka High alumni.
And excuse me, I just want to brag just a minute. My daughter was also one of the Living the Dream Scholarship recipients, Zoe Kincaid. I just had to say that as a proud mom on here.
Well, congratulations to you as a proud mama, and your daughter also. It's a tremendous award that she received. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Ramirez-Jennings, Ms. Kincaid, or Mrs. Barker?
I just want to thank them for organizing this. I love all our high schools, but I really love Topeka High. I'm not sure why I didn't go there. I love all our high schools. But I don't, maybe it's because I know my children will be going to Topeka High. My son will be at Topeka High next year, and we've gone there for like drumline, and Scott's 5th grade promotion has been at Topeka High, and we've been to plays there. I'm very excited for this year-long birthday celebration. Thank you.
You bet.
You should have gotten a schedule of the events in your packet of information, as well as a sponsor sheet that tells about the different sponsor opportunities and people who have stepped up to say that they will help us with the celebration. And if you didn't get those and would like a copy, I'd be glad to send anything to you.
Mrs. Barker, would you send maybe electronically, since we were meeting remotely? That would be wonderful, and Mrs. Lister can help you with that. Email
Yeah,
addresses.
Miss Lister has those documents.
Yeah, Ms. Lister's emailing all of that to you for Friday as the week concludes for the items that just came up on the screen. So you also have that in your packet in that regard, or she'll update it to the board docs, but she'll email that as well.
Great.
I would like
Morrissey, go ahead.
I would just like to thank the team for all of their great work. Topeka High has a special place in my heart, as Joan well knows. And I just thank you all for celebrating Topeka High and all of the alumni that have graduated from there and all the students that are there now. It has a great history in Topeka. So we just thank you for all your work.
I assume, Mrs. Barker, that the Historical Society has a room still on campus there at Topeka High that has some historical artifacts. Is that still?
Absolutely. There's a museum in the office of the Topeka High Historical Society on second floor in the middle of the hallway.
Great. Are there any other questions for Mrs. Kincaid, Mrs. Ramirez Jennings, or Mrs. Barker?
I see that there's a list of events that are proposed, and so right now the plan is to have those on hold just in lieu of COVID. Is that right? Any point where you'll try to make that final decision, or is it already final? That
we have an idea of when they're going to be at different months, but we have to be respectful of the school calendar too, as being specific on specific dates.
all right? Well, we'll all keep our fingers crossed. Great work, all of you all, for doing this, and I know that there are graduates and alumni such as myself, but not only here in Topeka, but all over outside of Kansas and out across our country. So I think they'll all be paying attention and wish you good luck and let us know what we can do to help.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
that concludes this. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna thank them for their contribution to the meeting and sharing that information, and echo Mr. Munoz's support. If we can help in any way, please let us know.
well, you can look at the list of the sponsorship opportunities. We'd love to have Topeka Public Schools as one of the major sponsors.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, that concludes our report. And I will say that this fine group of women that are leading this charge, I will share that Mrs. Ramirez Jennings, you may recall her, she was one of our staff members at Jardine, actually the office secretary, who is now the director of SENT, who also was an administrator with the Boys and Girls Club. It's so exciting to see you. And I didn't know that was you. So on Zoom, it looks a little different on this end. So thank you all three of you all. And for our proud mom over there, I think this is a great year to make a video so that you have a memory of your daughter having that proud moment that you can share with family. And so for all those students that were listed, Dr. Gray and his team, they're going to get together and see if they can make a video, have them give a shout out about their award. And then that's something that you will have forever. And when she gets older, she can tell her child to do the same in terms of getting that kind of award. Congratulations to our proud mom. Those are all the superintendent's reports, and we'll turn it back on over to the board. And I don't believe there are any other items on the agenda for me to share this evening, unless there are questions to entertain. I do want to remind the board as one final item, your next board meeting is the first Thursday in March. We will have spring break, as I said previously at the last board meeting, that will happen right after that board meeting. And we do want to share that right now we are scheduled to return from spring break on the 15th. And because we're scheduled to return on March 15th, that will be immediately after the week prior where spring break has occurred, and potentially some travel may have occurred as well. So if the board has any concerns about that return date, I would leave it to the board to discuss that and share with administration if you'd like for a different direction to be taken. But currently the calendar does say the 15th as your reminder. I'll turn it over to Dr. Mickelson.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So if any board members have concerns about a return to school on the 15th, please send them to me and I will make sure that they're heard. Next on the agenda is board member comments. So we'll start at the end of the table, and that's Dr. Bonebreak. Anything to share with us tonight, Dr. Bonebreak?
Okay, well, I was wondering how often Melanie has to replace the batteries in her glasses. And secondly, I really appreciate Dr. Anderson presenting to Congress remotely about how we're expanding the broadband. I talked to Dr. Anderson briefly earlier how the St. Louis City Museum reminded me of our broadband, with that bus going over the edge of the top of the building and with our buses, but no one was really aware, I guess, of creating these remote broadband places. I'm afraid Congress is going to get our buses up on 100-foot pedestals and have them rotate in the wind to generate electricity so they can continue broadband all the time, except there may be some freezing up of the machinery. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Bonebreak. Dr. Morrison.
I just have a couple of things. One, I want to tell the staff of the employees of Topeka Public Schools that the vaccinations are coming forward because of the work behind the scenes by our administrative staff. And a big thank you to Dr. Anderson. I've seen emails, and the only way that we can get our kids back in school safely is by getting back vaccinations to the teachers. And having them moved up is wonderful, and I'm just very pleased with that. The other thing I'd like to say is a big thank you to Reverend Williams. He is so quiet, but he does so much behind the scenes. It's quite amazing, and kudos, John. You are just a big help to Topeka Public Schools and to the community at large. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, this has really been a week of good news, both in terms of vaccinations, also in terms of transmission and those reduced rates, which signal that we're going to be back in school. I know that you begin to understand just how impactful public schools are in Topeka when you see its influence, and when you see student success, safety of teachers, parents, and all that they've been having to take on with school being remote, and as well as the impact on employers. So I think this has been fantastic news. I'm excited to have our kids back and have our teachers going in with a plan to do everything safely. And I'm appreciative of everybody's patience. It's not been easy, and everybody at one point or another has been frustrated with the way things are going. But surely but surely we're making our way towards some sense of normalcy. And the weather obviously took us for a turn. But I had no doubt that we would make a decision that would emphasize student and staff safety when it came to postponing going back to school, and instead obviously staying at home. Yeah, so whatever hard times we have in front of us, we'll do it, and we'll do it in a way to make sure that we do the best for everybody involved.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Mrs. Boley, I think you're next.
Thank you. I was able to attend that equity committee meeting that was advertised on our website. And there was something that was stated there that I want to challenge our district with. And it was stated by Mr. Cushenberry, and he says that history taught in our schools in the United States should be called mystery instead of history, because it's not teaching our history parallel to what is really happening in our history. And I would like to challenge our district to find some curriculum that would demystify our history and make our history stronger and help our students become more civically understanding of the growth of the United States. So I would like to challenge our district for that. I'd also like to congratulate our winter graduates. What an exciting thing, and thank our principals that were able to give them a ceremony that they have earned for the last 12 years. And it was so exciting to see them walk and receive their awards and their graduation certificates. So that was extremely exciting to watch happen. I'm really excited about our internship positions. This is a way to keep our students in the Kansas area and make Kansas a stronger and better place to live by allowing them to be trained for industry and businesses around Topeka and in Kansas. And we would like to keep them here, and what a great way to do that. And I appreciate that Topeka Public Schools is being very forward in thinking about educating students in this way. I just think it's really powerful. So I hope we keep looking at situations like this that we can improve the futures of our students. It's just really wonderful. And I just can't be more happy about the vaccinations. It's for me, for our schools to get back in safely and to protect all of our staff and our students, vaccination is the key, along with the mask wearing. And I am just very excited that Dr. Anderson and her team have fought so hard to get our teachers up to the front of the line, because we have realized schools are what make a community run smoothly. And so I'm so glad that our teachers are being put up there to get their vaccinations so that people can go back to work, and teachers can be teachers and parents can be parents, and make our community more normal. So thank you, Dr. Anderson, and all of your team. And I just want to thank my board that I work with. We've had to make some pretty tough decisions this year, and your knowledge and your input has been very powerful. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Boley. Mrs. Stewart Campbell.
Yes, so as Dr. Bonebreak mentioned, I wanted to also talk a bit about how Topeka Public Schools was represented yesterday at a congressional hearing on broadband solutions as it relates to COVID issues. And Dr. Anderson was invited to speak and advocated for more resources for schools to address the technology shortages and just expand connectivity for all students. And we're very proud of her for representing Topeka Public Schools so well and all families in need of steady and reliable internet. And same as others have said, the vaccines, it is such a relief. And in fact, during this board meeting, if you saw me turn my head, it was because my husband, who's a teacher in TPS, he knocked on the door, came in, he's like, my principal just called me. I'm getting my first vaccine tomorrow. I mean, this hits me at home, with my husband teaching in the district. And so I'm just really, really relieved, really relieved. And I know there's some people who feel reluctant about getting the vaccine. And I just hope that everybody gets vaccinated, because the faster we can stop, the more people get vaccinated, the faster we can stop the spread of this virus. And finally, as Dr. Anderson has mentioned tonight, that parent-teacher conferences are going on. We still have another, 30 minutes? And so they've been doing parent-teacher conferences all day today and yesterday evening. And I got to meet with several of my children's middle school teachers in the comfort of my house. And, in some ways, I actually preferred conferences virtually, at least at the secondary level, because they're often in the commons area, and it just was pretty nice, like the added layer of privacy and fewer distractions. But more than anything, in fact, I made some appointments with teachers when I didn't really have anything to talk about, like with my children, but I wanted to thank them. I like just short and like, thank you so much for their, well, thank them in person, well, screen in person for their dedication and their commitment. And we can just never thank them enough. They're doing an amazing job. And so that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart Campbell. Reverend Williams.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Morrison for those kind words. Also, congratulations to Topeka High School. All of the females in my world or my orbit are Topeka High graduates. And there are Topeka alums all over this country. A few years ago, my brother, who's a physician out in Chatsworth, California, called me and said, I had a patient today, and she told me her dad designed Topeka High School, or her grandfather. And I said, well, how does she know you know anything about Topeka? She said, well, my brother lives in Topeka. And she said, I'm from Topeka. And he said, my brother's an architect. And that's when she brought up Thomas Williamson, who was the architect of Topeka High School. So small world. Also, I am happy that we're finally getting vaccinated. I think it'll go a long way to getting us back to some sense of our new normalcy. And I really appreciate our teachers and our support staff, administrators for all that they're doing. And also for our athletes who have been challenged, especially those wrestlers who weren't able to participate this year. But let me see. Oh, and I wanted to correct an oversight. The Community Action Award that was awarded to Mr. Lear is named in honor of another retired, well, she's now deceased, TPS 501 educator, Liz Ross. So I think that covers everything. And we're doing great things at Topeka Public Schools.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. I'll be brief in my comments. Just wanted to acknowledge the contribution that the district helped with Avondale East and how we made that a kind of warming area, and there's blankets provided for people in need this past week during cold weather. My wife and I also listened to the Equity Council presentation Tuesday night, and that was spectacular. The panelists were marvelous. They were insightful, as Ms. Boley pointed out. Mr. Cushenberry's comments were good. I think we're doing a pretty good job of educating on African American history in our district, but we need to confirm that, as you pointed out. And finally, just acknowledge not only Dr. Anderson's contribution, because I've been copied on many of the emails she sends to state and county leaders and health department leaders, but I know Stormont Vale's been a good partner for us. I know St. Francis is partnering with other districts, so thank our local hospitals. Governor Kelly's been responsive, and Dr. Norman from the state and the county health department also have been working diligently and overtime during this pandemic, especially recently as we dole out vaccines to those at greatest risk. So thank you to our community partners. We couldn't do without you. I know I commented to my wife after reading another one of Dr. Anderson's very forward emails to those people that I wouldn't relent. I would relent and give in to her persistence because it was dogged. And so we thank her for that as well. But thanks to our partners. And that's all I have on my list. So with that, I will conclude the meeting, and everybody stay safe and warm out there. Thank you.
And as you have concluded the meeting and people are going off, and I know that if we were in the same room, I would just be saying this, but I do want to make sure, and you've already said the people that are making this happen, I want them to know that we are so pleased with our governor and the health officials, because we're still going to be begging for more next week. And we know that they are in charge in making this happen. And so I get the privilege of being behind the scene and cheerleading them on. If it weren't for our great governor and Stormont and others in the health department, we wouldn't be getting vaccinated this week. So we thank them, and we know that they have made this happen for all of us. And particularly tonight's phone call, which led to your phone call in your house, Mrs. Stewart Campbell, and was really a late evening call. So clearly Stormont is working 24 hours to make this happen around the clock. And for you all to know, that only came because they called the shipment to see what time it'll be in. So vaccines arrive in the morning, and our staff at 12 o'clock will be getting that shipment, and your husband will be one of them, it sounds like. So again, just publicly thanking our governor and others